Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Disney's Old Key West Resort. It's been a long time since we've stayed here, but we wanted to check back in, take a look at one of these rooms and tell you about it. So this is a Disney Vacation Club resort. In fact, it's the original Disney Vacation Club resort, and so it has Disney Vacation Club villas, including Deluxe Studios like the one that we're staying in today. So let's take a look around. We'll look at every nook and cranny, and while we do, tell me if you would stay in this room. Now, the first thing you'll notice as we step into this room is that it doesn't quite look like the Disney Vacation Club Deluxe Studios that we're familiar with. It's a little bit of a different shape, the layout's a little bit different, and that's just because this was the first DVC resort. So when they made these rooms, I think they had a little bit of a different plan in terms of what Disney Vacation Club meant, and that evolved over time. So just keep that in mind. This is not the type of room that you're necessarily familiar with, not the type of room that we've looked at in the past. Nonetheless, let's still take a look at every little element. In fact, let's start by turning around and looking at the entryway. So we do have a big entryway compared to some of the other resorts that we've stayed in. It does feel open. It feels more like a home in here than a hotel room. However, there's not a ton of space here in the entryway. And you'll notice that my bags are kind of just here. There's not a ton of space right here for a stroller, a ECV, or anything like that. However, there are other places to tuck that away. You'll also notice that we have this big window out front, and this does look out onto the parking lot, and you can see this is the stairway that gets you up to the second floor, and this is the entrance over here near our front door. Now we are on the end, so no one will be passing right in front of our window. Of course, we have like shrubs out here and whatnot, so they won't be passing in front of our window. So that does make this a little bit more private out the front, which is nice. There is also a plug down here, so you could potentially park an ECV right here if you weren't going to be using the second bed. There's also another outlet there as well. Here we have our first of two beds. Again, we don't have any special theming on the bedding, just standard for what you see everywhere around Walt Disney World. The beds are elevated, which is nice. So we have these platforms, despite some aspects of this room being outdated, for example, the carpet. So some things have been updated, some things haven't, but I do like that these are platforms so that you can put your luggage and whatnot underneath. It makes the room a lot bigger, which despite these rooms being some of the biggest DVC Deluxe Studios, you really do need that extra space because the space isn't necessarily used well in this room, at least not in my opinion. Between the two beds, we have a nightstand, and there is a significant amount of space between these two beds, which we always love to see. We like to make sure that there's enough space for people to get in and out. Of course, we have a phone, some of our little literature pamphlets and whatnot, and then there are some drawers here. Good sized drawers. We also have 3 switches for the fan and overbed lighting. Then there is this cute print of Minnie Mouse on the beach. Here we have our second bed, same as the first, elevated on a platform, and we do have a good amount of space on either side of the bed. So before I move away from that, here you'll see there is a nice amount of space between the bed and the wall, which we love to see. And here we have the same situation. A little bit more space on this side, probably because of those doors. Again, we have another plug. This is another space where you could definitely put an ECV, stroller, or whatnot, although if you were using this bed, it might get a little crowded over here. But you know, you can always play with the amount of space that you have and tuck things away in different places, see what works best for you. Here we have our table and chairs. There is a light over the table and chairs, which is nice because it might be difficult to see in this video, but this room is kind of dark. We don't have any overhead light. We do have a fan, but it doesn't have a light. So it's a little bit dim in here even with all the lights on, and so it's nice that we have some lighting in key places so that we can do some work, eat, or what have you. Only 2 chairs in here, so if you are sleeping 4, which this room does sleep, only 2 of you have a place to sit. The other 2 have to sit either out on the balcony or on the bed, which is a little unfortunate, honestly. This is a big enough room that you could fit 2 more chairs in here, so it is a little bit disappointing to see that there aren't 2 more chairs or even a bench that you could move over there so everyone could sit. Even though it's a small table, I mean, you could probably fit a bigger table in here, but that's just another example of how I said earlier that the space isn't necessarily used well. So it's big, but doesn't necessarily feel big. Some artwork here, which I do think is cute. Of course, this is Old Key West, so it is themed to Key West, and it really does transport you to Key West here in this resort. We'll do a tour of this resort in a future video, and you'll see it really does feel like you're in a neighborhood somewhere in Key West. Now off to the right here, you'll see a door, and this is a lock off. This is a door that opens up into another room. In this case, it opens up into a 1-bedroom villa, and this does open up directly into their kitchen, which means that it can get a bit noisy in here. And I say that because I've had another experience staying here and it was incredibly noisy. It was actually really, really disappointing. Of course, we've talked more about that in previous videos and we'll cover more of that in the review if it's necessary. I'd love to see what this experience is going to be like compared to that one, but you do have this door here that does lead into the kitchen of the neighboring room. So that's important to keep in mind if you're thinking about staying in a deluxe studio. The potential for noise is absolutely there. Now let's turn this direction. We're gonna go to the kitchenette and bathroom here in a second, but let's take a look at our television. You will notice that this is an incredibly small TV by comparison, and we also have a rather small bureau. It is tall, it has a number of drawers, but it is still rather small. There's actually even a DVD CD player in there. But still, we do have some outlets over here. Only 2 though. We don't have any USB or USB-C available. Actually, there isn't anywhere in this room, so you're gonna need your charging bricks if you're staying in this room. Again, this is just another example of why these rooms feel a bit outdated. It just doesn't have features that have become standard in rooms, even in the value category. And this is just another example of one of those things. Taking a look at this dresser, we do have 4 drawers. They're not very deep and they're not very wide, but they will serve the purpose. Also, I do want to note that I like that the knobs are themed as well. It's a very simple thing, but I do appreciate that. The drawers also look rather clean, which is nice because this is a bit of an older unit. You can see it's a little bit dinged up, so it's nice that it's still been cleaned out. You know, it hasn't completely been forgotten about. We have our trash and recycling, and then of course we have our kitchenette and bathroom. So first, let's take a look at this kitchenette area. Now this little kitchenette really shows how big this room is, especially in comparison to other deluxe studios in Disney Vacation Club resorts that are a bit newer, and it does have the amenities that we have come to expect from this type of room. So we do have our microwave right here, which is a pretty good size. That's nice. Of course, they could have given us a tiny microwave. This one is full size. We do have some plates and bowls up there and some cutlery as well as cups, our paper towels, dish soap, coffee fixings, toaster, and coffee pot. Full-size coffee pot here, which is really great. I've also been checking to see how clean the coffee pots are. I don't know if that's something that you guys are interested in, but looks pretty good. I like to keep an eye on that stuff as well. We do have a little sink over here. This is great not only if you're going to be preparing basic meals, but it's nice to be able to wash your cups and just keep things clean, which you can easily do because we do have our dish soap and sponge here as well. a few of these towels, which is always nice. Underneath we have a trash and some extra paper towels. Then in here we have a refrigerator. This is a pretty big fridge, which is wonderful. We love that. Unfortunately, there is no freezer section, which, you know, every time we do one of these videos, I say there's no freezer, and that's disappointing because we love to see that, because, you know, having the ability to make your own ice or freeze your own water bottle is really great, especially in the summertime here in Florida. That said, I feel like we're not seeing any type of freezer at all anymore. So is this one of those things that we just accept has gone away forever? Do I still comment on it? I'm sure that I probably will out of habit, but I don't think that the expectation should be there that there will be a freezer in these mini fridges moving forward. It's just one of those things that isn't a thing anymore, apparently. If we turn around, we have a closet here opposite the kitchenette. Now this has this folding door, and when we open it up, we see that it's an all right sized closet. It's very tall, which is nice because that means we can definitely put some luggage here. I'm a little disappointed to see that there isn't an extra pillow or blanket. I know that, you know, there's no sleeper sofa or anything in here, but it's always nice to have an extra pillow and blanket if you need it. Of course, I'm sure you could request it from the front desk if absolutely necessary. We do have some hangers, regular hangers over here, hangers with pants clips, pants hangers over there. We do have some cleaning supplies. So here it looks like we have a Swiffer and a broom. We have two types of vacuums. It's probably a vacuum and a steamer. There is an ironing board and an iron. We also have that luggage rack, and here we have a safe. Now this is not a digital safe. This is one that is actually really small. Of course, it'll still do the job, and it does have an actual key. So you have to keep track of this key, or there is a $35 fee if you lose that key. I'm honestly not a fan of that, especially when we're seeing digital safes pretty much everywhere else that you stay. And as we always say here, we want to make sure that you have the best vacation possible with the least amount of stress. I feel like having a key that you have to keep track of is a little bit more stress than it needs to be. We could just remember a code and we'd be good. So that's a downside for me. And again, another thing that feels a little bit outdated. Stepping into the bathroom, you'll see that it is really large and really beautiful in here. The lights are bright, which we love to see in a bathroom because this is where you're getting ready for the day, you know? So it's nice to have a lot of light in here, especially when you have a really dim room like we do. So here is the vanity. Again, not huge, but big enough. We have that overhead light, and we do have this really large area here, so we can fit plenty of toiletries, which is nice. It actually looks really clean and really beautiful, which I think is fantastic. I love that. We have some more H2O Plus products. Now this has been discontinued, that's what Disney has told us, but we're still seeing it in the resorts. They're probably just going through the stock. We have tissues, a couple outlets here, and of course our mirror. And then down here, we do have some spaces to tuck things away, but it's very narrow and it's not very deep. So that's something to note. There really isn't a place to put your toiletries in here. And we do have a cabinet down here, which is nice. So you could put your toiletries back there. Again, see, it's not, the cabinet doesn't go all the way back. So it's a little silly, but at least you could tuck some things in here. I think last time I stayed in one of these rooms, this did not open. That made this bathroom feel very small because there was nowhere to put your stuff. So it's nice to see that this does open. That is a bit of an improvement in my opinion. This over here is a window, and it lets in natural light. It also lets in light from outside in the evenings, which I think is great because it makes it so you don't need to leave a light on. You don't need night light in this bathroom. I think that's wonderful. Here we have our toilet. And I did notice that behind the toilet, we have a toilet brush, which I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that. I know that the toilets need to be cleaned. You'll use a toilet brush in order to do that, but I've never seen a toilet brush, at least not that I can think of, in a Disney room, or in any room for that matter. I don't know, share your thoughts. Is that weird to you? How do you feel about there being a toilet brush in your hotel room bathroom? Of course, we have a little bit of artwork, which I think is nice. It's colorful, it's subtle, but it keeps on theme. I think that's great. And then we have our shower here with that nice big shower head. This is not the updated shower head that we love. Of course, we talk up and down all the time about rainfall shower heads, but it's still big, and that's nice. And we do have a tub here as well, which is nice too, because if you have little kids with you, you want to give them a bath, it's nice to be able to have a tub like this versus a standing shower, especially when that standing shower doesn't have a handheld shower head. So that's a plus in this room, especially for parents. Here we have our clothesline that looks like it may be broken. I don't know why it's wrapped like that. Ah, it's because it's broken. Let's see if it still fits. It does. So it works, but just not as intended. Here we have our wall-mounted H2O Plus products. A little cutout here for our shower stuff. And we do have a nice ledge. Is that a random little detail that I had not noticed before that I do like? I like the ledge here. I don't know, let me know your thoughts. The tub looks clean enough for what it's worth as well. It does have this grippy surface on it, which sometimes, I don't know if you can see like the color on it. Sometimes it looks dirtier than it actually is. This looks clean, but you can still tell that it is used, you know, like it would be. You have some bath soap here and towels. And then over this way, we have some more towels hanging behind the door and a towel rack here as well as here, or a towel hook. Now this bathroom is rather large. I know we're always kind of noting that when we look at these rooms, and I always want to know if it's a big enough bathroom to comfortably get out of the shower, dry off, and get dressed. This bathroom is enough space for that. And it's a good thing, because when we open up this door, we don't really have any privacy from the rest of the room. We're right in the kitchenette and then right in the room. So it's nice that this is a big space that allows you to have some privacy and plenty of room so that you have that privacy. Now we've taken a look at the bathroom, the kitchenette, and the room. There's only one thing left to do, and that's look outside at our patio and the view that we have. So the first thing you'll notice is that we do have these really large, lovely glass doors. They open up with a lock and a doorknob. Of course, it does have this push lock, so you want to be careful that you don't lock yourself out. But here we have our view from this room. Again, this is a first floor room. Oops. Trying to navigate around these chairs. Sorry if I'm making some noise. We do have air conditioning units right there, and you can see how beautiful these buildings are from the outside, just from here. And this looks out onto the golf course. And this little road here is actually where you'll see golf carts driving by as people play golf. So that's not necessarily the most private thing, but again, depends on your opinion if this is okay for you or not. I know some people don't mind that, some people might. You'll notice we do have 2 chairs and a little table out here. The balcony isn't really that big. I don't know how I can illustrate this for you, but there's a little bit of maneuvering that you might need to do in order to fully enjoy the balcony. Of course, all this is kind of pushed close together. So it's not the biggest space. It's enough space for 2 people, but not necessarily for 4. Of course, there aren't 4 chairs out there for everyone in your party to enjoy either. But the problem that I have with this balcony and this setup, which I think is a problem for all of these deluxe studios, is actually the view that you have, not only from your patio, but if you have a balcony, and that is into the kitchen of someone else's room. So I'm sitting down now. Actually, we're about to see a Disney golf cart go by. Look at that. I think that they're selling snacks. Do you think that they'd toss me a snack if I called out to them? Please, bring me a Mickey Premium bar. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So from our balcony, we're actually looking right into the kitchen window of whoever it is that's staying right there, which is very awkward, especially if you happen to have someone who is utilizing that kitchen, who has those blinds open. And so for me, that means that this space may or may not be usable, especially if you don't know those people. So for me, because I am not in what would effectively be a 2-bedroom villa and know the people staying in that 1-bedroom villa, I'm just in this studio myself, it's kind of an uncomfortable situation to be sitting out there and have people right there potentially looking directly at you, which is a problem that I had the last time I stayed in this room. But again, it depends on the family. It depends on how they do Disney and how they enjoy their room. That said, I don't really like the lack of privacy that these balconies have. More about that some other time. I will say, before we wrap this up, I did notice that there is an outlet out here. So let's see. Do we have an actual outlet? We do. And that makes me wonder if, well, this isn't a really big gap down here, although the door isn't that big. That makes me wonder if you could fit an ECV out there. Now, it would be a little bit of finagling. You'd have to like drive in, we'd have to move a few things, but that might be an option. You can plug in your ECV out there, keep it out of the way so no one has to trip over it in the room. Of course, it does feel like there are plenty of places that you could put that ECV, especially if you aren't using this door. Same could be said for a stroller. There are plenty of places to tuck that stroller away. Unfortunately, the closet doesn't feel like one of them because it is a little small in there. But of course, this is all going to depend on what exactly you have. What's the size of your ECV? What's the size of your wheelchair? What's the size of your stroller? Do you have a double wide? Whatever. All of that is going to change how efficient this room is for you, and every room that we talk about. So keep that in mind. Of course, if you've ever stayed in one of these rooms with an ECV, with a stroller, tell us what your thoughts were. Tell us, did it feel like there was enough room? Did you feel like the space was a little bit tight? Tell us all about it in the comments down below, as well as any of your tips and tricks for staying in this room. But that about does it for our look at this room. I hope that you had a chance to see everything that you wanted to see. Of course, if we missed anything or if there's anything else that you guys want to know about, tell us all about it in the comments down below. We would be happy to answer all of your questions. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any of those conversations. Like I said, we're going to talk all about Old Key West. We're going to do a little bit of a food review. We're going to show you around this resort and definitely give you our thoughts at the end of our stay. And you don't want to miss that, especially if you're considering staying at this resort. But again, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye.